Now, I feel absolutely so happy to get to introduce Paco Fabián, who is the campaigns director for Our Revolution. He's an experienced public relations professional. He's worked on a range of issues, including workers' rights, immigration reform, trade preferences for the Andean region, human rights for farm workers in the US, yay. Yay for all of these, but universal healthcare for all, federal government whistleblowers, and housing affordability. He began his political career working on Capitol Hill and has worked as a journalist and communications professional for a number of high-profile organizations. Holds a master's in international relations and political theory from the University of Westminster in London, and received his BA in political science from the University of Arizona. And he is, by the way, doing absolutely incredible work organizing in opposition to federal fossil fuel subsidies. So, Paco, I hope you'll share your thoughts with us on fossil fuel subsidies matters and what people can do.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Michelle, and to the DNC Environmental and Climate Crisis Council for having me on, and to Representative Khanna, Representative Levin, to Paul. All the guests today have really knocked it out of the park, and super excited to be working with you all at the DNC Council, as well as with the rest of the guests going forward. So, I don't want to get into too much of why fossil fuel subsidies are terrible, because I think we've heard it from Michelle and from everybody else, right? The question I want to answer is, what are we all going to do about it, right? So, the DNC Climate Council, Our Revolution, which is where I work, Oil Change International, who I know Colin's on there watching. Hey, Colin. Greenpeace USA, the Sierra Club, the Natural Resources Defense Council, several other organizations that are involved in fighting fossil fuel subsidies have come together. We've been working together for about, a month, and some of them even longer, to try and take advantage of this moment, right? We have this incredible opportunity to really rein in fossil fuel subsidies and the fossil fuel industry itself. In this moment, we have a president that supports ending fossil fuel subsidies. We have friends in Congress. You heard from two of them now, Ro Khanna and Andy Levin, and several others, right? Part of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And we've got an outside game now, right? This whole week is going to be dedicated to making sure Congress and the White House and everybody else does something to help us end fossil fuel subsidies. And so what we're going to be doing this whole week, and this week is being kicked off today here at this meeting with the DNC Council on Environment and the Climate Crisis, is we're all coming together and really using this whole week to really push Congress to do something about fossil fuel subsidies. Right? There's several bills there. We have our friends at Our Revolution. We like to call it an inside-outside strategy. We have friends on the inside pushing legislation, wrangling other members of Congress, and then we have us, right? The folks on the outside that have to really push all the other members of Congress that haven't really been on board with ending fossil fuel subsidies. And so we're doing that this week. On Tuesday, we'll be holding a rally outside of the Capitol with a lot of the groups I mentioned. Michelle is going to be there. Representative Khanna is going to be there. Representatives from Greenpeace, from Oil Change International, Friends of the Earth, Sierra Club, a bunch of different organizations, right? We'll be there, again, pushing Congress, making sure that we include ending fossil fuel subsidies in either the infrastructure bill or budget reconciliation, right? And a lot of people have asked me, right? So does it really matter if we go out and do a march? By the way, we're going to have a giant 8-foot fossil dinosaur out there with us. So if you're in the DC area, come hang out with us, get a picture with our fossil dinosaur that's going to be eating fossil fuel money. But a lot of people ask me, does it really matter if we show up to a march, if we show up and, does it matter that we sign a petition? Does it matter that we make a phone call? And let me tell you, it absolutely does. And the best example I have for that is from my previous work. I did a lot of work around the Fight for 15 before I came over to Our Revolution. And I remember when we first kicked that off in 2012, whenever we said we need to raise the minimum wage to 15, back then people's reaction was, well, are you crazy? We can't do that. 15 is too much. It's double the minimum wage, which is still, $7.25 an hour, the federal minimum wage. And it's impossible. We can't do it. It's too much, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to now. 15 is now the floor. There's bills in Congress for 15. They didn't get through the Senate. Thank you very much, parliamentarian. But, we'll keep pushing for that. We changed people's minds on that, right? People that said it was impossible now are pushing and helping us to do it, right? In Congress and outside of Congress and everywhere else. That is what we have to do. We have to be out in the streets. We have to phone call our members of Congress. We have to email them. We have to sign petitions. And we have to do all this in order to show the popular support that exists for ending something like fossil fuel subsidies. And so that's what we're going to be doing on Tuesday. We'll be pushing. And if folks, again, are in the DC area, you can, sign up. There should be a link that should pop up here soon. There it is. dncclimate.org has all the different events that are going to be happening. And, on Tuesday, we'll be doing that. I think on Wednesday, we're going to have a phone banking day. You can call your member of Congress, call your House member, call your senator, and tell them that you need to end fossil fuel subsidies. And we'll be doing a big push on social media on Thursday. And then there's a bunch of other events happening, right, around the country and here in Washington, D.C. this whole week, right? Everybody's in D.C. ready to push for environmental issues and to end fossil fuel subsidies. And so that's how you guys can get involved. Other ways you can get involved, I think you heard from Paul, if you're a college student, join your College Democrats of America chapter at your university, get involved with them, help them push. If you're involved at the Democratic Party level, whether it's at the county or at the state or at the city level, get involved and push your organization to pass a resolution, right, in support of ending fossil fuel subsidies. Join an environmental organization, right, Greenpeace USA or NRDC. Get involved because, as you've heard from everybody else, it's an emergency and we can't sit on the sidelines anymore. I don't come from a background of environmental work, as Michelle said. I come from immigrant rights. I come from worker rights. I come from some international work, housing and Medicare for all, right? That's kind of my background. But I'm involved in this now because I realize that none of that is going to matter if our planet disappears, right? If we're not here anymore. So it's a fundamental thing we have to do. And for our revolution, fossil fuel subsidies is a red line. We have to get rid of those. It's, for us, the best thing we can do in an infrastructure bill or in budget reconciliation in order to start seriously addressing the climate crisis. It will make it a lot more expensive for fossil fuel companies to do what they do, which is destroy the earth. And as we all know, what they care about is the bottom line. So join up with one of your groups, join with Our Revolution if you have a local chapter near you. We'll be fighting for this, and there'll be a lot more activity over the summer when this infrastructure and budget reconciliation bill is really, really ramping up. Right now, we're just putting our flag in the ground saying this is don't cross this line. We got to get rid of fossil fuels. So, Michelle, thank you again for having me on. I really appreciate you, and happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Paco. I want to emphasize that we're in chat, and also we'll be having it pop up a little bit later on, a link to actually sign up for the Tuesday rally, whether you're in DC or you're going to be watching the live stream. And you can also go to that. There it is. So you can go ahead and sign up right now to do that. Having a strong presence is important, and if you can't make it, at least share the information. So
one more thing, if you're outside of DC, we'll be live streaming it on all kinds of different channels. You'll be able to see it, I believe, on the channel you're watching right now, as well as at Our Revolution and Greenpeace and all kinds of other places. So you should be able to find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch. If you're there, take a pause from playing Fortnite and help us end fossil fuel subsidies.
Awesome. And thank you also for calling out some of the members of the coalition that is working on this. This is not, any one organization. And there are people who I know are listening from Friends of the Earth Action and Oil Change and Greenpeace, Sierra Club, NRDC, Oxfam, and more, 0 Hour, who have all done incredible work to help to make this week of action come together. There was a question asked earlier by Colin. I'm actually not sure of Colin's state, but he's
in Maine, I think.
Is it Maine? All right. Colin from Maine, who was asking about how what is your thinking on how getting rid of these subsidies might generally weaken big oil and big gas? What kind of a difference will it make? Wonder about your thoughts on that.
Well, look, I mean, I think these companies generate a lot of money, right? But it will make it a lot more expensive for them to decide to drill a new oil well, right? Or start doing a new or exploring a new fracking project, because they won't be able to automatically, as Ro Khanna mentioned, right, get the depreciation that they now get as one of the subsidies. And that's just one, right? I think oil and fossil fuel companies get $15 billion. That's billion with a B on, in federal subsidies. And those are just the ones that apply to only the fossil fuel industry, right? They get a bunch of others that apply to any other kind of business. But we're talking here about the fossil fuel subsidies that apply just to the fossil fuel industry. And that's $15 billion a year. Some people say it's 20. I'm not a numbers guy. That's why I do comms, right? But that's a lot of money, regardless. And so, that's a bottom line thing for them, right? Imagine if we were able to get that $15 billion in subsidies, right? And invest it instead in renewable energy, right? And cars and solar and wind. That would jumpstart the renewable vehicle industry, just as an example, much like all these subsidies, launched the fossil fuel industry 100 years ago, right? And they've been getting, by the way, these subsidies for over 100 years, right? The reality is that industry doesn't need those subsidies anymore. And they will think twice about drilling if they're not going to get the money back immediately.
I think all of that is true. And there are times that they're operating on fairly narrow margins. It's happened. So, I think the subsidies at times are keeping some of them, especially the smaller operators, afloat.
Right.
One more quick question.
Sure.
We've gotten a number of emails and contacts over the last couple of weeks from people who are really concerned that 2021 might be a replay of 2009 in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being that Democrats in general, progressives and environmental and public health advocates in particular, are not going to successfully achieve the legislation we need. Do you have a response to that?
Absolutely. Look, Democrats, President Biden, and Democrats in Congress campaigned on, ending climate change, right, or addressing climate change. They campaigned on a bunch of other things that, for my organization are progressive issues, right? And they need to deliver on those issues, because if they don't, and we saw that during Obama's second term, right? They're going to open the door for somebody like Trump to take over again in 2024. They're going to lose the House and the Senate in 2022. And they need to understand that, yes, it's about the planet, right? And they should get that. But if they don't understand that, some Democrats need to understand that it's about their political career. And maybe they will understand it if we say that, right? Because if they don't deliver, voters aren't going to take a chance again, right? And we might end up with a Josh Hawley or somebody running for Congress, Ted Cruz, version 4 or whatever it is, right? But somebody that's so horrible on the issues that we care about, including the climate. And I think there's a responsibility there for Democrats, right? That they have to deliver on some of the promises they made, because if they don't, it's going to be, midterm elections are already not very favorable to the party that's in control. This could make it much, much worse.
It's the right thing, and it's a smart thing to do politically. Win-win, right?
Exactly.
Why would we not do this?
Right.
Well, thank you so much for being here.